Okay, so we're gonna try this again. Today I'm gonna show you how to create a very simple YouTube layout for combining a screen recording with your webcam and a social media link or whatever. Doing all that with free tools like OBS. It's open source, it's free, and Paintnet is also free. Yeah, let's just get into it. As you can see, I am recording this with OBS. This is it. You can see by the tunneling that I'm currently recording this with OBS. So first of all, in OBS, you can go under settings right down here. Under video, you can see your resolution. So my recording resolution is at 1920 x 1080. So that's what we're going to use as our working space in Paint.net. Now down here I have Paint.net. It's a free program. Links will be in the description below. And the cool thing about this program in particular is it has more tools than the basic MS Paint, but it's not as complex as GIMP or Photoshop, and it's free. So with Control N, we're going to create a new canvas, and we're going to make it 1920 x 1080. Okay. And what I like to do is to just Control A to select everything and Delete to make it blank. Okay? Now, 1920 and 1080 have a small number of common factors like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 64 is one of them. So I will use 64 as our number to create a grid that helps us like move the things on screen around. So we're going to go under render, and by the way, these are some plugins, and they're all free. So use the grid or checkerboard maker to create a 64 by 64 grid. And as you can see, this creates exactly that, a 64 by 64 pixels grid. Now what this is going to help us with is to move things around and make everything look nice and smooth. So now I'm going to start looking for a background image, and then click pictures, and then in tools select the first option here in user rights, which allows you to use these pictures. Basically these are open source pictures now. And now in size I can make it be exactly 1920 x 1080. Whoops, 1080. And there's a lot of pictures here that might work out. Oh, what's this? Yeah, I think we could use that. So we're just gonna click View Image, and it loads this image in. Right click to copy it, in a new layer, which we can add by clicking this button. We're gonna paste in this image, and as you can see, it matches in size. Now what I like to do is I like to display this grid over the base image. So what I do is Control A to select everything, Control Shift I to invert the colors, and then double click this layer and change the mode to additive, which basically just adds the white lines and everything that's black is transparent. And I will reduce the opacity down to right about there, so I can barely see the grid lines, but it helps me align things on screen. It's important to think about what you actually want, because it depends on the project that you're planning. But for example, I would want my screen recording up in this corner, like this maybe, okay? Or like this, whatever. Then in here or over here, a webcam view. Then maybe this is usable space, which I don't yet know what to do with it. Turn this into a huge subscribe button, and use this for your social media links or information or whatever. But I like it because it's very easy to align things. Now first of all, I will create a layer for each thing that I want to have. This layer will be the webcam feed. Whoa. There you go. For a screen, box, maybe subscribe, logo, social. Now the webcam feed in my case is also 1920 x 1080, or a 16:9 ratio, so exactly the same ratio we use in our main screen. So what I can do is I'll just pick a color, paste it in on this empty layer that we call webcam feed, and I like to add a white text in front. Alright, Then what we're gonna do is select this, hit M to resize and move, and then by holding up the Shift button, the aspect ratio stays the same, and we can basically move it up and down, scale it up and down, move it up and around. And then what I like to do is I like to use Control and the mouse wheel to zoom in. Then I'm gonna align this with one cell border around to have a nice padding, and then I can size this down to these here or these here. And then you can see that there's a slight difference in size here to the whole grids, but a little stretching, like that was a very little amount of stretching, is okay, is acceptable. Then we have the screen feed, which is what I'm gonna use a different color on, blue. Do the same thing, Control A and Control M, zoom in, align it with the border, scale it down. Now I want this to be exactly with a one border distance, so right there. Now we could scale this up and down again because it's a fairly large thing, so it's okay to scale. So we have the screen, we have the webcam feed. Now we have this box area. Now there is two ways of moving. The one where the box is transparent, which means you're moving the image, and hit M again, where the box is blue, that means you're moving the selection. Delete. To delete it, do the same thing over here. Delete to delete it, and now we've created a box area. I could use this whole area for subscribe, which I don't know if it might be too big, but whatever. Hell yeah, we're gonna try it out. Okay, good. And then we have an empty area right here, which is reserved for logo and social. Now we could use this for both logo and social, but I'll leave that open. Now, the first idea is, how are we going to create this? Like the screen? Do I want, okay. Anyway, I am now going to unify all these layers with the bounding boxes, and I'm just gonna say boxes. That's our help for aligning things on the screen, and with this control we can easily toggle on or off the grid lines. Now with boxes I could use a layer effect to make it a little less obtrusive, like that. Turn on the grid, and now we can align different things on here. So now the question is, what kind of design do we want to go? Do we want to make it very simplistic and just have rounded corners, or do we want something more extravagant like borders, or do we want something more tech-y or tech-related, or what do we want? Now, I'm not really sure, but I want something very simple, so I'm just gonna go with rounded corners. Now, there's a few methods to do this, but the easiest is to just cut it out of here and then use this as an overlay, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. Now, I'm gonna use the selection tool for a circle and go into the wallpaper layer, but the boxes one is still on. Now I'm gonna select 1 to 1 box, circle, and hit the delete key. I'm gonna do this for this box as well. Bam, 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 delete, select, and delete. Now from the middle of this, which is right about here, we can do a selection like this and hit delete. And then from up here, we can easily make a selection to down here and delete, and we have just created a nice outline. So if we hide boxes and hide the grid, you can see that that's a nice rounded rectangle that looks okay. And delete. And that's pretty much it for the for the thing. And now, the cool thing is we can actually try this out right now in this video. Okay, so the way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna just hide these two layers. I'm gonna hit Control-Shift-S to save it. Now I've created a folder in here that says OBS utility files in my pictures folder. I'm gonna set the type to PNG, and we're gonna call it I don't know, simplistic. Save it, hit OK, and then it's gonna ask you to combine all these layers, and you're just gonna click yes. Now I combined them all into one layer, as you can see, and saved it as a PNG. And right after I save, I'm just gonna hit Control-Z to undo this combining, so I'm back into editing mode basically. Now I can minimize that and go into OBS. Now in here I have my overlay, which basically just toggles this white border you see around the webcam, the camera, which is the webcam feed itself, and the main screen, which is the screen recording of what's going on. Now the way you usually do this is you add a new screen or a new scene, and you're gonna give it a name. Let's call it simplistic, just like we did with the image. Hit OK, and as you can see now, you can't see anything. So what you're gonna do then is hit this plus button down here, add. Then you're gonna select a screen recording, create a new one, a screen recording, and then in here, for every screen you have, it gives you an option. Now I'll use this one screen because this is a screen that I'm not yet using, and I will do the same thing in the new layer, and I'll see you then. Hold on, actually if I do it like this, I can edit this layer and you can still watch me. So add a screen recording, and I'm just gonna use the main screen, so I'll use an existing one, this one, which one is it? I think it's main screen. Yeah, it is. Okay, this is what we've created. We've just got the main screen in here. Now with the plus sign and video recording device, you can add your webcam. Now I've already added my webcam in these other scenes, so we're just gonna add an existing camera and hit OK. That's this. And now in here, in this preview window, you can move things around, size them up, size them down. Okay? And if you right click and hit lock preview, you can move things around, or simply hit L to do it. Okay? So woo, woo, woo. That's a pretty cool effect in the preview, in the tunneling. Alright. And now we're gonna do another plus, add an image, and we're gonna call it overlay because it's a new one. So hit OK, and then in here is the source. We're gonna click look for it, and then simplistic, open, and that's the overlay we're gonna use. Now you can see this is kind of broken, but it works for what it's supposed to work. Now hit the camera one, and now just move this box slightly out of the bounds, size it up, and then I'm gonna squish it a little bit and then use all the arrow keys to move it around inside the borders, and we've basically added that. Now the main screen needs to be downsized by a lot, and basically you can see that now too. Now the sizing isn't pixel perfect, and there is a way, a very easy way in fact, to do it. So go back into Paintnet and have a look at the boxes you've created. Use a wand tool to select it, and it says right here it's 64 pixels in, like from the left to right, 64 from up to down, and it has a size of 449 by 257. You can use these measurements and right click on camera transform, edit transformation, and in here you can select the position. So we said 64, 64. Now it's pixel perfect to the edge, and then the size, so 449 by 257, and now it sits exactly in the borders. We're gonna rinse and repeat for the other one as well. Hit close, and that makes everything appear inside this window. Good. Now we can create a few other things, like the subscribe button we've wanted to add. So for that, I'm gonna add a new layer onto wallpaper, and I want that subscribe button to be to have a nice gradient from red to red. So I'm just gonna select the primary color, bright red, with a left click on this color palette, and with a right click I'm gonna select the secondary color, the dark red. Now I have this overlay, but I'm selected in the empty layer, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit the gradient tool, make sure it's a color gradient, and by holding on to shift you can do straight gradients. This one is bright to dark, that's okay. And then boxes. Now we're gonna move it under the wallpaper layer, and we're gonna do the same round thing with cutting out the stencil like we did before. So now if I hide the grid and hide the boxes, you can see what this looks like. Now obviously I need to delete these windows as well, so I'm just gonna make a crude selection here, hit delete again, and basically we've created a nice gradient button down in here in the lower left corner. Now we can slightly color correct it, because I don't like this bright shouting red, but I like a more purplish red, so we're gonna do -5. Gives us a nice color tone, actually -8 or something. Nice. That's like YouTube red. Okay. And then we're gonna use the text tool, white, on a new layer to just write the word subscribe. Okay. Now you can see that this already looks like a subscribe button. Okay. Okay. Now I'm gonna copy that layer with this button, and the lower one I'm gonna move 1 pixel down, 2 pixels down, 1, 2 to the right, and then with Control Shift and T, we're in brightness and contrast. We're gonna drag down the brightness. We're gonna drag down the contrast a little bit to create a dark gray drop shadow. Now we're going to double click on the gray layer, and we're going to use overlay that darkens the red on this and makes it look a little more 3D. Now you can go under effects, blur, Gaussian blur, and add a 2 pixel Gaussian blur, which makes it look like a softer drop shadow, and I kind of like that. So I'm just going to leave it. Control Shift and F to unite all these layers, Control S to save, Control Shift and Control Z to undo, and automatically as I saved it updated, and it updated here in real time too, so now there's a huge subscribe button down here. It's a little bit too big for my liking, but that does not matter now. Now I'm thinking of what possibly I could use the left box for. I don't know yet, but we're going to do a nice a social panel down in here. So basically we're going to copy, we can unite these layers right down here, because the subscribe button is bound to stay. I'm just going to make another crude selection to delete this part, and now even without the wallpaper you can see that the button is just up down in there. Okay, so reappear that. I'm gonna duplicate this layer, select this gradient, move it over, invert the selection and delete to make a partner button on this side. And you see how it looks perfect? It's exactly the same gradient, but I don't want it to be red, I want it to be black and white, so I'm gonna hit Control Shift and I. Oh no, sorry, Control Shift G to make it black and white, Control Shift T to make it a little darker. Hit OK, go back into the wallpaper selection, back into the grid. Now we need to make another crude selection here because it cuts off a little bit. So do that. And then with the boxes on, but I don't actually even need it, making another circle selection up here in the wallpaper layer. 1 and 2 and all the way over here. 3 and 4. Now, without the grid, this is what it looks like. It's a nice panel that is very unobtrusive. We can invert the colors as well to make it opposite colors and then darken it, but leave the contrast on or increase it, but I just like it the way it used to be. Okay, now I want to create custom icons for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or whatever. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna hit Control N to create a new layer, and we're gonna make it 512 by 512, which is a regular icon size. Control A, select everything, delete, delete, and now we're gonna make a gradient. So first of all, I want the Instagram icon. So just search on Google for Instagram icon, Yocon. Go to images. And here you can see the icon, but what I want is this kind of icon. So we're just going to copy that and add a new layer in which we're going to paste that. And this is a little too large for my liking. That's better. We're going to invert the colors because I want it in white. Then I'm going to take the original one and copy it because all I want from here are the colors. Paste it in the background. Now use the color picker to pick one to two colors and create a gradient. That does not look very clean though. So maybe that's better. I don't know. Yeah, that looks kind of Instagram-esque. And then double click on this again, additive, and now you can see that it's just the white logo on this colorful gradient. But I don't really like this either. I want a single color gradient for every social media. So I want bright to dark blue, like this kind of gradient for Twitter. Whoops, sorry. This kind of gradient for Twitter, a darker version of this for Facebook, a red version for YouTube, and a purple one for Instagram, or a like warm red, orangish for Instagram, and a purple one for Twitch, for example. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this one, and I'm just going to hit Control Shift U to change hue and saturation, and then find a color that looks like Instagram. Like this could work for Instagram, but I also think that some orangish red. Actually, I think the purple one looked more like Instagram. Okay. Yeah, sure. Then I'm gonna add a new layer, hit the Shapes tool, rounded rectangle. Yeah, sure. And then change the mode to just fill mode, and uppermost to lowermost corner. There we go. And then change the curvature to like 50, like 100. Yeah, that looks like an app around. Select it, invert selection, and then hit this background layer, hit delete, that rounds off the corners, and then we want to find a right size that looks okay but not overly large, like something like this. So let's say 100. Now Control R to resize 100 by 100. Okay, actually Unite, resize 100, 100, and that is a nice, crisp, sharp Instagram icon. Now we're gonna add a layer, and then we're gonna just position it, optically center it. That's Instagram. Okay. Now you can add text onto this if you want. So ads, something went wrong, or whatever your Instagram handle is. Put it right there. You can make it a little smaller too if you want to. Okay. And again, Control Shift F to unite, S to save, and now it says that in the layout down here. And that's basically everything you need to know about this and how to do it. I'm just gonna show you one last trick, which is to make how to make a crawling text. So I'm gonna hit plus text, GDI plus, and we're gonna create a new text. We're gonna call it crawl demo. In here you can just add a text. So some random text is scrolling through this video. Okay. And then space plus 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 and another space, which is the basic divider if it scrolls through. Now in here you can change the font to whatever font you like. I'm just gonna use, I don't know, Universe Lights, and use a fairly large text size, so 72 for example. Hit OK, hit OK again, and this is the text. And as you can see, I can move this around. And now we're gonna right click in the sources and we're gonna hit filter. Hit plus to add a filter, and then movement. So this movement is called scrolling. Oh, I misspelled that. Sorry, scrolling. Oh, damn it. You know what I mean. There you go. And then you can add a scrolling speed right here. And as you can see, it scrolls through, or a scrolling speed like this, or a combination, which is really weird. So if we do this on 0, it's just scrolling through, make it a little bit slower. And then, if you hit this button, it scrolls through infinitely. Let me actually see that. Now you see it has a box where it moves, whereas this is the default text box size. So if we click this again, and I don't know, let's say 500, or let's say 800, okay? Close, and now we can just size this down, like this. And now it is scrolling within the bounds we've just set, and it's gonna scroll infinitely. And the cool thing is with this crawl demo, you can right click and go into settings and keep changing the text or whatever. Okay? It doesn't really matter what you write in there, because it'll just work. That's basically what you need to know. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section down below. I will try to answer them as best as I can, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye!